Parents, be warned. The government is launching this new offensive, they call it new, to push radical sexuality and gender ideology at your young children. And yesterday I looked at the overall curriculum. But today I want to show you some specific aspects of the family planning resource, which may find its way into your child's classroom, but only if you let them. Now remember, this is all part of a new push by the government. It's the Relationships and Sexuality Education Guidelines, or RSE for short. Although it's not new because the guidelines were released by the Ministry of Education in September 2020, and we did a full analysis of those guidelines. But what I want to do is show you some clips from the full episode of Family Matters that we released recently, and it gives you an idea of what the government and Ministry of Education is telling schools to indoctrinate your child with. And in today's episode, it's about groups like family planning coming into the school and what they want to tell your young children. You'll be shocked by what you see. So let's just have a look at a few excerpts. And this is firstly for very young children. There's family planning's Navigating the Journey. It's probably a journey that you won't be keen on joining them on. It's saturated with gender ideology and also contains material for primary school children that you probably think is up to you as a parent to talk with your children about. Here's a few examples. For new entrants, and learning all the Māori words for these as well. For years 3 to 4, so this is for years 7 to 8-year-olds. But the gender ideology indoctrination begins at 7 years old. Introduce the words sex, gender, stereotypes, and gender roles to the students. Sex refers to how a person's body is classified based on genitals, chromosomes, gonads, etc. Sex and gender are not the same thing, although commonly mistaken to be. Gender, our sense of being a man or a woman or someone else. It may not be the same as the sex we were assigned at birth and is influenced by society and culture. And then they want your 7-year-old to watch this lovely children's book.
Who are you? When babies are born, people ask, is it a boy or a girl? Babies can't talk, so grown-ups make a guess by looking at their bodies. This is the sex assigned to you at birth, male or female. Sometimes people get this confused with gender, but gender is much more than the body you were born with. Some people say there are only 2 genders, but there are really many genders. You are who you say you are because you know you best.
Yeah, okay, so as you can see, it's all based on feelings and nothing to do with biological reality. And then the family planning resource starts targeting 9 years and older. It's 5 and 6, so this is 9 to 10 years old. There's these types of activities. And you'll see at this level a continued and stronger push for gender ideology. Remind the students that gender refers to the gender a person identifies with. For example, girl, boy, both, woman, man, non-binary, transgender, takatapui, or queer, which may or may not match their biological sex. We learn how we act from people in society. Sometimes someone who looks like a boy may actually feel like a girl, and vice versa. Some people don't feel they are either a boy or a girl, and that's okay too. Yeah, so that's very early indoctrination, isn't it? But then it gets really disturbing, and I would say almost criminal at intermediate school or years 7 and 8. Watch this bit. Age, about 11 and 12 years old. And apart from the so-called safe sex method, the teacher guideline says, explain that when we become sexually active, we should get regular tests and checks to monitor our health, just as we go to the dentist to have our teeth checked. Where might someone go to have these checks? Students need to know that doctors can provide contraceptives to young people under the age of 16 and this service is confidential. Yes, we don't want those pesky parents being informed. Highlight the fact that if the students are thinking about having sex, did I mention that this is for 11 to 12-year-olds? It's important to talk to their doctor or nurse about how to keep themselves and their partner safe. It doesn't matter whether they're in a same-sex or an opposite-sex couple. Any couple is at risk of STIs. Identify the services in your area that can provide free support and make them known to your 11 and 12-year-old students. For young teens starting at secondary school, it's these types of activity cards. Okay, that's pretty shocking, isn't it? And I think, one of the worst aspects, apart from that criminal aspect, because remember, those resources are targeted at 11, 12, 13-year-olds. I think the worst aspect is that teachers are encouraged by the Ministry of Education to keep a child's issues secret from their parents by allowing the child to adopt a new persona, to change their gender whilst at school, which includes the use of preferred pronouns, without necessarily having to inform the parents that there are identity issues. Here's the evidence. Check with the student about the name and or pronouns they want to be used in the records that parents or caregivers may see, as they might be different to the ones they use at school. Now, as I said yesterday, these government-sanctioned programs targeted at children as young as 5 undermine the role and value of parents. They're pushing a radical leftist sexuality and gender ideology, and the resources fail to take into account the emotional and physical development of each child and the values of their family. Do you know for sure whether family planning or Inside Out or Rainbow Youth is in your school? Check. And if when you request information or you ask for copies of the curriculum, you get mucked around or they refuse to show you the resources, that's an immediate red flag. Look, family planning, Ministry of Education, they hate this presentation that you're watching because they really don't want you as a parent to be fully aware of what's happening. Otherwise, they would have consulted with you when developing it, but they didn't. Now, in tomorrow's episode, I'll show you how you can push back so that you can protect your family and your children and your community. And don't forget, you can watch the full episode on this topic of Family Matters on our website, familyfirst.nz. I'll talk to you tomorrow.